Alright, looks like we're streaming. Gonna double check. It doesn't look like it's popping up. There we go. There we go. Welcome, guys. So today, the idea for today is to review Mr. Tomo's Okiora versus Asnot. It's some people seem to really like the live stream, so I think we're gonna do the live streams. Gonna try to do them at least like once or twice every Sunday. It's probably the best I got. Maybe could do them at other parts of the week, but it just depends, honestly. Oh no, them dogs are barking. They're going at it. But yeah, hope you guys like the new hope you guys like the new banner, the new channel logo. That is my or a rendition of my own Bleach OC. So I hope you guys like it. I hope it catches on. I think the channel definitely needed a little bit a new coat of paint. Maybe some other things could change. We'll see. Got to get better at this. But yeah, as far as that goes, that was it. So today we're going to be reacting to this video, and my captains should be able to hop in at any time they want if they feel like it. So yeah, let's get to watching. I'm actually curious about this because, like, I don't actually think this is a big deal, but I know this is a big deal in, like, the actual community itself because of, like, just how the characters are viewed and how popular they actually are and their similarities. But this is a 48-minute video from Tomo, so let's dig in.
For sponsoring today's video. The dust has settled on our first Bleach versus battle, featuring a titanic clash between
Definitely got to do that one.
versus Ichibei. And safe to say, it went down really well, which I'm so grateful for. And in the aftermath, there have been tons of ideas put forward for who the next battle should feature, and eventually I hope to get to as many of these matchups as possible. But one
Can't
matchup
wait.
caught my eye in particular as it was requested by a lot of people, and it's a fight
Okay,
that has
headphones are
intrigued
set.
me too. Not least because it's between two of my favourite characters in the series, but because I don't think it's quite as clear-cut as it might come off initially.
Really? Interesting. So we already disagree.
Be decided by one central crucial question.
Yo, welcome.
Potentially swinging this fight in either direction, and a fight like that genuinely fascinates me. And so the battle this time is between two of the most sinister and popular villains of Bleach, the fourth Espada, Ulquiorra, and Sternritter Asnot.
I'm curious how he's gonna get this to go.
Supporting villains in Bleach, Ulquiorra and Asnot, at least on the surface, seemingly represent two sides of the same coin. Both are terrifying, but for different reasons. Ulquiorra is characterized by a complete lack of emotion, a cold, bleak.
No, he still very much has emotion.
Total opposite, a character driven by raging emotion, pure, direct, and overflowing. Ulquiorra is calm and ruthless in his efficiency, unfettered by the weaknesses of human morality. He's the ultimate
doesn't have a heart.
Perfect portrait of everything that makes them what they are and why they should be feared. But on the other hand,
I disagree with that.
And he commands the rawest, purest.
He's a version, I would agree with. The only reason I say I disagree with that portrayal that he's the perfect example of a hollow, like he may be, I disagree solely on the grounds that we see that there are more as like being an amoral monster doesn't completely represent the hollows. I think what a better way of understanding them are just a natural byproduct of the world, to say that like they're these emotionless, terrifying beings and that is their very nature, I think is a bit off, especially when you take in the fact that like Ulquiorra is himself an Arankar. An Arankar, like, looking at it, they are more human than they are, or more Soul Reaper / human than they actually are hollow. no, that's iffy. But I just think I think if you're looking at what represents hollows in general, I would say each of the Espada represents actually fantastic aspects of each of them, because I actually think, like, when you look at Zomari, for example, you see a being who just wants to exist, who honestly is weirdly enough like every regular person. He has a religion he believes in, which his religion is, excuse me, oh, sorry, I had to burp, which would be Sosuke Aizen. But he also makes that very interesting point to Byakuya Kuchiki that, hey, like, we we hollows, like, who gave you guys the right to hunt us and say that we can't eat humans? We have to live too. And essentially, the Soul Reapers are the ones that made that rule, essentially. So there's that. But that's not really something I guess I disagree with, but just an opposing opinion.
Disturbing ease, as his entire being is devoted to this primal instinct and the desire to instill it in others, right down to his outward appearance. Anyway,
Oh
I'm
god, that's
really looking
terrifying.
forward to diving into this one, so let's get right into it. But before we get started on the video, guys, if you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure to do that now for more Bleach content
I already hit
like
subscribe, bud. I've been
as
subscribed for a
always, I
while.
want to say a massive thank you and give a huge appreciate
uh,
the support. All the kind messages and well wishes helped make the day, and it truly does mean a lot to me.
oh yeah, I meant every word, man. You know, I really hope your future endeavors just continue to go up and up, brother.
So,
Yeah,
thank you all, each and every one of you again. Now, I mentioned at the start of the video that this fight would likely be decided by a
that's the biggest
single
Ulquiorra's ever
question.
looked.
And that question is simple. Can Ulquiorra feel fear?
Yeah,
Obviously, there's quite a bit to unpack here, but I think this is the crux of why people often pair these characters together for
exactly,
scenarios like this.
exactly.
Sure, they share some similarities in a superficial sense. Like I said, they're both popular, they're both villains, they both have outwardly gothic, spooky appearances. But
Hmm.
what's most interesting about this matchup is the way they're, thanks to their different natures, potentially the total antithesis of one another, and
We'll
how
have to
that
see
might
about that. I
play
mean,
into the battle itself. It
yeah,
could either be over extremely fast, or it could not. Of the two
definitely go with
characters,
extremely
Ulquiorra
fast.
has had the more face time with audiences, as one of the
Hmm.
major villains of the Arankar arc and a rival character to Ichigo himself.
Mind you, a character design that in and of itself has changed multiple times. Like and it's actually in the thumbnail. The position of his helm, his mask, his broken mask, the position of his hollow hole, those things slightly change more and more as the series goes on. Actually, funny enough, like the Iran cars, their masks are supposed to be remnants of what their original masks look like. I find it interesting that Ukiyora's mask is so different from his original hollow form, and that, like, the more he goes res, the closer it looks to his original form, which makes more sense because that's exactly what res is supposed to do. But I just find it interesting that his actual Arankar base mask is so different.
Himself, Ulquiorra is privy to not only a lot of scenes in general throughout the arc from start to finish, but one of the greatest and longest fights in all of Bleach. I've said it before, this
Yo,
duel between Ichigo and Ulquiorra is a
godly.
weird one in just how it operates almost entirely within a power vacuum, but again, more
Yes,
on that later.
very true.
It wouldn't surprise me
A lot of
if,
people
going
don't
into this
accept that,
video,
but it
most
does.
viewers immediately side with Ulquiorra, and I totally get that. But I think we'd be wise not to underestimate Asnot. While he doesn't have the same
Definitely going
problems
as
as
not.
Ulquiorra overall as far as Sternritter go, as
Now, I do want to say this. I don't think the Sternritter as a whole massively outclassed the Espada. I think the top four Espada definitely, even like without training, the at least the top four are capable of fighting in the Thousand Year Blood War. Now, if we were to like give them the training and the passage of time that they got, I think they would have been massively helpful against the Sternritter in the Thousand Year Blood War. But even just taking like what they were, I don't think uh that they actually would have been so massively outcast by all of the Sternritter. I think there are some Sternritter that is so very clearly above the Espada, but we'll see what Tomo thinks about as far as this one, because I'm already leaning. I already know where I have this battle going, and he says he thinks that most people would side with Ukiura. Let's see what he says.
Gets a great showing, with 2 full fights under his belt. While Ulquiorra may be a rival character to Ichigo, Az isn't far behind in terms of the standing of his heroic opponents. He's
Mm-hmm.
essentially the grudge match personal rival opponent of the Kuchiki siblings, and it doesn't get
That's fair.
too much bigger than that. And as a roughly mid-tier level member of the elite Quincy Guard of the Sternritter, charged with the Herculean
Wait,
task
did he
of
say?
elite Quincy Guard than that. And as a roughly mid-tier level member of the elite
I love that he said that. Most people are gonna be very upset. I think that is actually a great summation of Asnot. I genuinely do.
Quincy Guard of the Sternritter, charged with the Herculean task of bringing down the Soul Society and expected to duke it out with and defeat the captains of the Gote 13 on a face-to-face basis, as is plenty.
So I always do find this interesting. I think a lot of people give so when we talk about like the Sternritter versus the captains, I always think it's actually rather interesting because initially in that early part of the fight, like a lot of them stole Bankai. So we're talking about characters who should be now without their Bankais, depending on what their Bankais amp. We're talking about potentially characters who are nowhere near the top of their power. Excuse me, when they fight the Sternritter, and it's a very few that actually go out after and just start mopping the floor with um these captains with their Bankai. Very few Sternritter actually do that. And I do think that is interesting. I think a lot of people don't take that into consideration. When it comes to that early invasion, they do stomp them, but that is mostly due to one, the medallions, and two, just how ill prepared, or I'm sorry, not ill prepared the Soul Reapers are, but how quite over prepared the Sternritter are. We get hints in the first invasion about data books. We fans want data books all the time, and here we go. The Sternritter themselves have data books on the entire Soul Reaper. They've been reading the same things we've been reading, so that's interesting. But what's even more interesting, I think, is that trying to understand how these fights change without medallions. Finding out how these fights change without medallions, I think, is so interesting. So very interesting. Um, is as not beating Byakuya when Byakuya can still use Senbon Zakura Kageyoshi? I don't know. I don't know how much. I don't know if the volume, because we know that with the fear, he'll probably get into this later, but with the fear, a character will slow down. Like that is just something that happens. We see that explicitly shown to us several times. So, will Senbon Zakura Kageyoshi's volume be able to compensate for the lack of speed from Byakuya? Maybe. Could Senkei or any of the other abilities maybe help Byakuya overcome the paralyzing fear that hits him? Who knows? Um, it's definitely difficult, but we'll see. We'll see what he says.
Himself. And when it comes to both of these characters, we have a fairly good understanding of what they're able to bring to this battle. So next, let's take a look at the combatants themselves. As the
I'm curious if Tomo's gonna reference the novels,
Ulquiorra is one of the most powerful hollows
because
encountered in the
if
series.
you reference one,
Throughout
because some people in the Discord have been using the Safui novels to kind of scale some of the Espada. Um, and if you use that, there's one particular scale using comments made by Uryu towards about Uryu, about Vassal Lord Ichigo, and the the beings like Cien and Kenpachi fighting in front of him. If you interpret the comment one way, you can get um Yami, Vassal Lord Ichigo, Ukiura. Like you can get some of these characters in that that Zero Espada range. So we'll see. I'm curious.
Ukiran Karak, he's depicted as aloof and untouchable, barely even moving when confronting enemies, with Kubo going so far as to highlight it as a big deal when Ulquiorra even removes his hands from his pockets. This is
Yeah.
a character who isn't just stoic in his facial animations, but in his entire demeanor.
What if you could do SEO smarter and faster?
Oh, great.
In
Ads.
Wix, you can edit your meta tags.
It takes a lot to get him to react with anything other than a blank stare. As his unmovable general, Aizen relied on
Yeah,
Ulquiorra
it's
a
just
lot,
it's.
deferring tasks.
I think the other problem is for people trying to say that Ukiura doesn't have emotions. Um, I think one thing you have to really fix is so Byakuya tells us kind of his idea of how the fear works, and it seems to be correct. There's no actual confirmation from Asnot in the fight. Byakuya states that fears generally come from our inborn anxieties, things we're insecure about. Um, so I don't believe so. People who are afraid to die are generally insecure about their life. I mean, that's kind of true for everybody. If you are insecure about wanting to live, then you're worried you may die. Cool. What what's difficult here is that Ukiura seems to be emotionless, but we know he has not discarded his emotions actually. There's no confirmation that his emotions are actually gone. And we know this because he has introspective thoughts in his flashback, in his the manga that covers his flashback. And we also have that last moment where he finds his quote unquote heart with Orihime. You would have to make the argument that in between those two moments, the birth of him being in a wrong car, which again is weird because the Iran cars become more human, more Soul Reaper like when they become Iran car from Hollows. So you would have to make the argument that he's losing his emotions as he's becoming more like a Soul Reaper and human. And then that entire time that he's an Iran car right up to his death, he feels absolutely no emotion. And that's something that Byakuya pointed out, and even Asnot himself points out that you can push fear down. You can be as stoic as possible. Like Byakuya, he even says it straight to Byakuya, something you probably haven't felt in a long time, something you've pushed way down that you haven't felt before. Fear. And the reason that is because the last time Byakuya probably felt fear was when the Sokyoku was going to impale Rukia. And that's it. Ever since then, he's not fighting, he's not worried about Rukia. Rukia is safe. So that was his insecurity that manifested as fear. Some people are saying that, well, we need to know what specifically Ukiura is afraid of for us, and that's not true. As long as we know what the insecurity, as long as we know that character has an insecurity, has an anxiety about something, or feels emotions on any level, we know that they are capable of feeling fear. So you would have to actually argue that the character itself is genuinely without emotion. That's almost impossible.
To him, and even feeling confident enough to leave Las Noches in the Espada's care upon initiating the assault on Karakura Town. In his visuals and presentation, Ulquiorra is the
Oh
very
god, that's
darkness
beautiful.
of Waco Mundo brought to life. I get the impression Kubo wanted to depict him as the ultimate scourge of humanity, the unyielding dark reflection of Ichigo himself. Ulquiorra can't
Possibly.
fathom human emotion, human understanding and empathy, and balks at the very idea of becoming more human himself. All these factors and more coalesce to make a genuinely compelling antagonist, and yes, one of Bleach's best. There's an ongoing discussion within the community
Actually,
as to
so
how powerful.
So actually, that is another fantastic point. Um, Ukiora says, "Me become more human," and he actually lashes out. Like to sit here and say that that is like someone without emotion would not lash out at that idea of the concept of them having emotion. It wouldn't register to them. Like, I'm without emotion. Okay. It's essentially a non sequitur to them. Ukiora lashes out. This is what I'm saying. Like, it's a character trying to pretend that they don't have a heart because they had to get rid of it in order to be a hollow. Like, this is another thing that is interesting, that for someone to say that they don't have a heart, for someone to say they don't have emotion, the hollows actually, their hearts become their mask. They wear their heart out to the world. So,
Ulquiorra actually is, and whether or not he's really the strongest of the Espada, mostly thanks to his Segunda Etapa form, which no
yeah.
other Espada had achieved at the time.
Hmm.
I'm not going to get into this here as I want to dedicate a video to this question at some point, but strongest in general is a vague and nebulous term, and often means a variety of different things. What's important here is
Yeah, I
that
agree.
Ulquiorra is
I think people
absolutely
need to
one of
get
the
on board with that as
strongest
well.
Aran car and has displayed proficiency in virtually all areas of combat. In my mind, there are things that make Ulquiorra dangerous beyond just his raw strength. Compared with most other Arankar, Ulquiorra is seemingly of sound mind. He's calm,
That's fair.
collected, rational, and intelligent, traits shared by really only the absolutely most well-rounded of the Arankar. Even Barragan, the king of Waco Mundo himself, is
Hmm.
deranged and delusional. His enormous godlike power is offset
uh,
by an extreme arrogance that verges on unhinged. Ulquiorra's unique
that's fair.
rationality can be seen in his decision to forego more power for improved regeneration. It's apparently
Actually,
somewhat like
so it's interesting that he says this. So it's like he seemingly doesn't have the same weakness that the Arankars do. That his mentality is almost perfect for what he does. I think I agree for like specifically if we're looking at it from that perspective, but at the same time, the reason that is because Ukiura has no purpose. He is looking. He is an a directional person. So honestly, anything or anyone that gives him purpose, he will do, whether he agrees with it morally or not, because he's pretending to not have one. Like, that is unfortunately his weakness. His orders are his orders. It's almost like the Kukulame, the Lancer versus Archer battle. We see that Ku is under a command spell. Ku could probably quite easily take Emiya apart. However, because he's under a command spell not to try his hardest, he's not actually fighting at his best, and you could maybe argue that's a weakness of Ukiora, that um whoever his leader is his ultimately his compass. But I agree. I think of like of all the Espada, he has the soundest mind for a fight.
heard of within the Iran car, but it's a smart move. Thanks to his incredible regenerative powers, Ulquiorra can keep fighting long beyond the limits of most of his contemporaries, restoring his own limbs or even his obliterated body in a matter of seconds. Ulquiorra is shown to be a master
uh
combatant and excels in all areas, his effectiveness
mhm.
matched only by his callous brutality. From casually deflecting an energy blast from Kisuke Shikai with his bare hand, to defeating Ichigo himself not once but twice, with the second outcome resulting in our hero's
Yeah.
actual death by Ulquiorra's own hand, something no other villain in the series has been capable.
So it's interesting. I know quite a few people have been going back and forth about this recently. Um, I have actually changed my opinion. I used to agree that Ichigo was dead. I don't think Ichigo was actually dead yet. I know it's crazy to say with, well, the man had his heart was gone. Yeah, yeah. We've seen people survive things that should have insta killed them as well. Um, but you know, Also, I don't think we saw. I'm gonna have to double check, but I'm fairly confident we didn't see any of the indicators of Ichigo being dead. So yeah. And if anyone wants to say, well, this character said that Ichigo was dead. We've had quite a few characters do that. If anyone remembers the most popular one, Jugrum with Byakuya Kuchiki. So Byakuya Kuchiki has died. Byakuya Kuchiki is still alive, even in the Hell chapter. So, I don't generally take characters' words for it. I generally look at what's there, and if the character's dead and stays dead, they're dead. Um, if they have a hole through their body, and then they get back up, I would count that as not dead. Also, because if I remember correctly, Tensei Zangetsu wasn't broken at that point, nor did it start breaking. Therefore, Ichigo never died. Um, that was my thing. So, I don't think Ichigo was actually dead. But beating Ichigo twice in a row, like with almost no difficulty, I'd say like the second fight was like it was low difficulty. That first fight was almost no. See, that was a weird thing. Like Ichigo kept like scraping Ukiura, but like not actually really pushing him. He started to push him in this fight, but like I still don't think Ukiura was trying, and not to mention like Ukiura isn't trying his res. So yeah.
While never specifically claiming to be the best in any particular area, to do so anyway would be out of character for the fourth Espada. Instead, he quietly displays his aptitude in almost every area during his fights. His immense durability
Hmm.
allows him to walk away from an overbearing Getsuga Tensho with very minor injuries, while his Hiero enabled him to be struck at point-blank range by
Hmm.
Ichigo's blade in Bankai, receiving only the smallest of nicks. On the opposite end of the spectrum, his devastating Sero seriously injured Ichigo while knocking Nell unconscious, all with minimal effort on the Espada's part, before he
Definitely.
immediately caught them both up and proceeded to devastate Ichigo without
He
his
kicked the
invasion.
hell out of Ichigo
Recurring
right here.
trope in
My
Bleach
God.
is that characters who shout about their prowess and abilities are often not quite what they're chalked up to be, with very few exceptions. Ulquiorra is naturally the reverse of this, quietly and calmly executing Aizen's orders with lethality
Yes,
and
exactly.
displaying
Thank
his
you, Atao.
power and strength in an organic way. Then, of course, there's Ulquiorra's Resurrección Murcielago, which is special in its
And then we
own
see
right.
that like
The
so then like that's another thing. If Ichigo was truly dead, that means White has the capability of reviving Ichigo. Not just like if you're gonna claim Ichigo's dead, it's not just oh he healed the organ and the body started working again. You would have to say that White genuinely healed him from death, which death is I think a lot of problem. Also, part of the problem is that people think that like death is this finality. Uh, I'm pretty sure, fairly confident, death is a process. It is when you're dying, it is a process. There is a point that we, as the outside viewers, kind of add a finality to it. And there is a point that you could say someone cannot recover from being quote unquote dead, like being turned to ash or being atomized. But otherwise, yeah, dying is a process, not a start and stop thing.
initial release gives Ulquiorra access to incredible, devastating speed. Ryatsu
Oh
lances
yeah,
reach to fight at in close range in places.
I think, and I think I've actually said this on the channel before. I really genuinely do think this Res One goes underappreciated. I don't. I think part of what makes Segunda Etapa so much better design wise is that it was something we saw for the first time, something we didn't know existed, and then the sheer like nightmarish form it has compared to some of the other res forms, almost like each was just fighting a pure hollow again. That's what made it so good. But I genuinely still think that this form is almost as good as the second one. I don't think there's that big of a disparity when you look at the helmet or you look at the how actually the wings look so good countered by the white cloak. uh, I genuinely do think this res isn't bad at all. I've seen some people say they don't like it. I think its design is fantastic.
Of his Zanpakuto and the Black
It's like the
Sero
perfect
known
example of like
Severlos.
minimalism
As one of the
done
top
well.
four Espada, Ulquiorra is forbidden from releasing his Zanpakuto under the dome of Las
Yes.
Noches for fear of completely obliterating it due to his colossal Reiatsu.
Uh-oh, he said fear, game over, as not wins, fear, boom. Let's go.
But as we know, Ulquiorra takes things one step further. After wanting to show
Someone's
his
not going to be able to
rage
tell that that's
and
sarcasm.
despair, he is enveloped by complete inky darkness, the visual of which depicts it as blotting out the moon, the only source of light in Hueco Mundo itself. This
True.
darkness bleeds away like a shadowy sludge, revealing Ulquiorra's mythical Segunda Etapa, draping him in a form that's demonic, horned, and winged like a devil, with a gaping hole in the very center of his being. And as expected, this form only continues to ratchet up Ulquiorra's own power and resilience, giving him the ability to obliterate an entire area with his Lanza del Relampago power. One
Lanza del Relampago.
and again, seemingly without limit. But as I've mentioned in the past, when
As simplistic as this technique is, and like how uncontrolled it is still so cool. Whether it's the green version, the more spear-like green version in the anime, or it's the more flowy energy version in the manga, I think both are fantastic. The fact that it can be used as an actual spear and then also be thrown, it's one of those few times that someone uses a weapon like it's supposed to be. Like Ukiara generally actually tries to thrust the Lanza. Like that made me so happy seeing that, because generally when you see spears, people use spears in media, eh, they use it like a sword.
discussing this form, it's difficult to truly quantify its strength. Ulquiorra is a hard one to gauge in many respects
That
due to
blast
the
would have reduced Las
proximity
Noches to
to Ichigo
nothing.
within the story. As the main character, Ichigo undergoes near constant development as well as transformative leaps in power, while conversely sometimes suffering from emotional setbacks and distress which have a detrimental impact on his ability to fight.
Oh, I'm
And like
burping
much
so
of the
much.
past,
I'm so sorry,
Ichigo
guys.
isn't static in his capabilities, and thus while Ulquiorra
So this was always one of those interesting moments in the series for me. Was something's not right. The boy's spiritual pressure fluctuating wildly. That's strange. At its lowest, his power is garbage, but at its strongest, at its highest, it's stronger than even me. And I find that interesting because this is something you talk about oftentimes when Ukiyo references his own power. Is he directly talking about his Res 2? Or is he talking about just his base power? Because he even makes this comment later, which is one thing everyone argues about when trying to scale Ukiyo to the other Espada, is when he says that even if you would defeat me, Ichigo Kurosaki, there are still 3 other Espada more powerful than me. And I love that because when you look at it, it leaves that like Kubo is clearly doing this on purpose. He's trolling everybody, and I love it. But when you look at it, this is him talking about myself. It seems like he's talking about um his I apologize. My brain is pausing on me. It seems he's talking about his Segunda Etapa because at Ichigo's full unbridled hollow power, um he's far stronger than Ukiora. But he also technically still could be talking about a masked version of himself, the masked version of Ichigo, because the masked version of Ichigo would be more powerful than the base Ukiora. So Kubo knew exactly what he was doing with that.
as one of the major tent poles of Ichigo's own development, it's not so clear cut
Someone messaging
as,
in the
say,
chat.
another fight between two supporting characters might be. What makes Ulquiorra so hard to truly break down is the fact that he is a rare example of a villain where Ichigo's own capabilities simply haven't caught up to where he needs to be yet at the time of fighting his enemy, and they don't either during the course of the battle. And thus, as Ichigo is handily outmatched by Ulquiorra by both his first and then of course his second release, it becomes tougher to nail down just how strong Ulquiorra is, because Ichigo is already being decimated.
I think we can like fairly scale at least we can fairly scale the somewhat the first two forms. It's Segunda Etapa that's the problem because so I talked about this in my Ukiyo versus Stark video that when you look at base to base, like Stark is stronger than Ukiyo in their base. He is actually considerably stronger, seeing as he's 3 spots higher. You could argue that the top 4 Espada are all right next to each other in power, seeing as those are the only ones that are, um, those are the ones that are not allowed to do certain things under the canopy. Greatly don't think that that's enough. I don't think that's enough evidence to actually get you to that they're all close in power. I think the only way you can justify any of those top Espada being close in power is Shinsui's comment in FKT. Like Jushiro and Shunsui are trying to figure out who the strongest Espada is. Then they start fighting Stark. Then Shunsui asks again. He's saying like, okay, clearly that girl over there is the third. Which one of you is 1 or 2? And Stark confirms that he's 1. And I talked about this in the video that kind of puts there is a slight there's a noticeable difference in power. Doesn't mean it's a lot. A noticeable difference in power between Haribel, Baragan, and Stark. But the actual difference between Baragan and Stark isn't as noticeable. Or at least maybe it's hard to tell with everyone fighting and all the spiritual pressure everywhere. However, either way, we know that we can at least say that there is a distance between 3 and 1, meaning that the distance between 4 and 1 is also significant. We see that it takes masked Hollow Ichigo to finally completely outclass base Ukiura. They're close to being even, with Ukiura still slightly being stronger than Bankai Ichigo. When Bankai Ichigo puts on the mask is when Ukiura is outclassed. When Ukiura goes res, he then goes back to outclassing that Ichigo. So that means the difference between Hollow Masked Ichigo's power and res 1 Ukiura's power is actually considerable, seeing as he just completely negates Getsuga Tensho. So we can scale those characters. But it is concerning to see that Shunsui, in his base state, can fight with Stark. Can he beat Stark? Was Stark playing around too much? Sure. But even if we say like, okay, Stark holding back in his base versus Shunsui. And for anyone that's like, oh, Shunsui wasn't trying to kill Stark, that is false. You don't throw your hat in someone's face to try to kill them. You don't try to use dirty tactics to try to kill them if you're not trying. I know that example was while they were in Res and Shikai, but for people who are saying that Shunsui wasn't trying, that's actually ridiculous. I'm only 13 minutes in. I gotta stop stopping as much. Yeah.
Ichigo can barely stand to face either of them. But what's truly important for this discussion?
I also use speed as another way to correlate the strength of Stark and Ukiura. In a fully healed Ichigo and a wounded Kenpachi could not perceive Stark. Base Stark. Ichigo doesn't have a problem perceiving Ukiura until Segunda Etapa. He's able to react to Murcielago with oh snap, I'm gonna have to double check if he had his I don't think he had his mask on when he released that Getsuga that kept his head on. No, he did. So even with his hollow mask, like Ichigo is struggling to perceive Ukiura, but he can still react to him. He's still getting beat up, but he can react to him. It's not till Segunda Etapa that Ichigo really cannot perceive what Ukiura is doing to him.
Is the knowledge that Ukiura's resurrection is extremely
Sorry, mind you, Stark was carrying somebody when he did that.
deadly and can go further beyond that. Interestingly, both he and Aznot
Ooh,
share this ability to
God, that
fight
tail
together
smack.
twice, though only one of these forms got any kind of face time with the audience. So, taking a
Ukiura's
high-level
tail
look
has
at
better
Ukiura
striking feats than most characters.
of an extremely competent, well-rounded fighter who excels in almost every area of battle. Ukiura is both highly durable and physically powerful with his regenerative skills, giving him something to fall back on should he find himself in trouble. Despite his relatively small and lithe form, he's capable
Beautiful.
of both extreme destruction
I love when
and
Kubo draws Saros in the series.
especially once his
They're so
signature
flowy.
number has been released. With all that said and done, Ulquiorra seems to be, on the surface, the ultimate soldier. He embodies hollow brutality without the insanity and is easily one of the most dangerous and deadly warriors in Aizen's Arankar army. Now that Ulquiorra
I can't wait to do my video about studying sword techniques in Bleach. I think they go so underappreciated.
into this video immediately siding with the Espada, like I said before, I wouldn't blame you. But we'd be wise not to underestimate a stern written. So let's take a look at the opponent, as Asnot comes equipped with one thing Ulquiorra doesn't have: a singular, completely broken ability. When breaking it down like this, something becomes quite clear. Asnot and Ulquiorra are almost completely different fighters.
Yep.
Neutrogena Ultra Shield
No.
technology for a non-greasy feel.
I don't even use
Only the
Neutrogena.
sun will know it.
Come on, man.
Is skilled with the blade and a
Maybe Tommo
surprisingly
using
physical
Neutrogena.
combatant, employing his innate hollow techniques alongside raw power and speed. Asnod relies heavily on his shrift.
Yes. Thank you. My goodness, thank you.
Nexus for his entire fighting style. There's a good reason for this, though, as the
When Asnot does not have his opponent under the fear ability, he struggles mightily. He struggles mightily. Just look at like Shikai Rukia. Shikai Rukia starts bodying Asnot because his fear doesn't work. And then like you get to, and then like the anime, if you want to talk about the anime expanding the fight, Byakuya is capable of fighting with Asnot while not under the effects of fear. It's not until the fear turns on that Byakuya literally can't even cut through his blood anymore. It's crazy.
the fear is extremely powerful, and as we've seen, capable of defeating captain class opponents.
Fear.
Relative
Love that question.
However, when this power of his is stripped away through whatever means, we've seen that Asnot struggles to deal with an
Rukia,
enemy and circumvent
one of the few times she smack talks in the series.
trick. It makes for an interesting matchup, to say the least. While Asnot might not get the same amount of panel time as Ulquiorra, he still does pretty well, and we get a solid look at what he can and can't do. Of all the Vandenreich students, many readers felt Asnod made clearly the biggest impression during the Quincy's first invasion.
So that's interesting. I actually, for me, it wasn't him. Like, I know people are like, "Oh, it doesn't count. It's Yuha doesn't count." But this just like revealed that Yuha isn't Yuha. It's Royd. Like Royd always made the biggest impression on me, mostly in a negative way. But I see, I get what he's saying.
Of Soul Society. Going up against the 6th Division, Asnot successfully stole Byakuya Kuchiki's Bankai before quickly overwhelming him with the fear. And it was here that we really got to see this power in its terrifying glory. One strike from Az's thorn-like arrows and his enemy is quickly overcome by a trembling, sinister, primal fear that rises up from the inner depths of one's subconscious to render them completely and utterly.
I will say it is very interesting that Asnot's ability goes from a on contact skin contact poison to a like visual power.
Even he, so usually calm and collected, is traumatized by horrendous visions and illusions, succumbing to the fear to the point where he's effectively unable to mount any kind of a counterattack, leading to Asnot nearly killing him. Although Asnot might not be as imposing as Ulquiorra overall from a combat perspective, this was undeniably an incredible introduction for the villain. As a member of the Sternritter and able to steal and control Senbon Zakura Kageyoshi, Asnot has Reiatsu roughly equal to that of Byakuya himself.
Yeah, so it's interesting that like Juhaba says, it's not that we couldn't steal it. We can steal it. It's just that when it comes to using it, you gotta be relative to that person. I think a lot of people, I used to mix that up a lot too. I was like, oh, just to steal it, period. You have to be, but you can steal a Bankai. The problem is The problem is using it. So I actually kind of wish we would have had an example of a Stern Ritter stealing a Bankai that they couldn't control and seeing just how badly it would have gone. Is it just like they can't control it? Will they be attacked themselves? Will it kill them? I don't know. I actually really wish we would have been able to see that.
which is already impressive. Although, of course, for this particular matchup, Asnot won't have access to Byakuya's Bankai, as thieving that power isn't a skill he innately possesses. But it doesn't matter. The fear was more
Hmm.
instrumental to his overall victory anyway. And later
Agreed.
against Rukia, Asnot's Volständig Tartar Foras only emboldens this horrifying power even further,
Ain't that the
taking
truth?
it to frankly ridiculous extremes. Where Asnot used to have to land a hit to affect his opponent with the fear, now they need only lay eyes upon
Very
him and
similar
fall into
Ukiyo-e
the mind's
design with the blood,
brazen trap. This
the
is
teardrop
truly
design.
Asnot's trump card. Much like many of the Stern Ritter, the ultimate form of his Shrift is completely busted, allowing him to influence his enemy in a crippling way without expending any
Very
will
similar
effort
designs to
himself
Ukiyo-e.
whatsoever. The reason we
I love his
focus
wings. The
almost
wings are so
exclusively
cool.
on the fear so far is simple. It's Asnod's main avenue of combat. Unlike Ulquiorra, who has a wide array of combat skills available, yet none
Hmm.
that are well and truly powered, I'd say, Asnot focuses really everything he has on debilitating his enemy with the fear. But admittedly, it's not the only thing he has going for him, and as always, the Sternritter come with many tricks of their own too, inherent to them as a
As
faction.
long as you're
In
alive.
that vein, he has
Yep.
a powerful defense, allowing him to effortlessly swat away Renji Shikai with his bare skin. And before anyone says that Byakuya Shikai managed to break through, I thought it was fairly clear that Asnot let himself be injured to see what Senbon Zakura was capable of. And despite his
Interesting.
frail and emaciated form, Asnot
I'll
was
have to take a
capable
look at
of
that.
ripping
That's an
himself
interesting claim.
free of Sode no Shiryuki's ice even after he'd been frozen entirely by a sub-zero blade. One interesting trait of the Sternritter is not only their resilience, but how that combines with their mental state, with their ideology. As we see, when Asnot tears himself out of the ice, he does so, it seems, in immense agony. But
Hmm.
he's focused, even going so far as to claim that Rukia's true Shikai doesn't instill fear nor even pain in him. His zealous nature, wanting to please his god king at all costs, allows him to perform
Get it, Kubo.
incredible feats of survival, admittedly at injury to himself. And of course, on top of all of that, as a Quincy, Asnot is capable of dominating Reishi and bending it to his will.
Oh,
This
okay.
brings
Say
up
it.
an interesting point of conflict. One of the greatest disadvantages Asnot faces in this fight is the simple fact that his enemy is a Hollow. And of course, Hollow Reiatsu is deadly poisonous to Quincy's.
Hmm.
Despite that, Kirige OP used the ability Sclavere to strip the monstrous Hollow
Okay.
Chimera Ion
Let's
down
go.
to the bone and augment his own body and strength with the creature's Reiatsu and flesh. While Kirige
Because.
wasn't only Quincy shown using this power, it's been confirmed that all Sternritter have access to it. After
Okay. Oh, I must have not been in Club Outside recently. Where did that? Yes, yes, reacting to Tomo. What? I must have missed that Club Outside. When did that get confirmed? If that's confirmed, my Bambietta scale goes pretty wild. So I was curious if he was going to use this argument. So I'm like, so because Quincy can break down Reishi to such a degree, I actually think they can. So this is the interesting part about it, right? Like he breaks it down, and the hollow parts of Ion are still present. So it is curious why it doesn't affect them. I imagine the sheer dominance part has to do with being able to use it without being affected by it. Um, there is another character that has a shrift that allows them to do something similar to this, which is the death dealing. So I'm curious how Tomo explains it.
all, it's simply their ability to absorb and dominate Reishi turned up to its highest potency. The key point here is that Kirige used it on a Hollow, voluntarily engaging with Hollow Reiatsu and even taking it into and wearing it on his body. What does
Hmm.
this mean, and what does it mean for Az in this scenario? While no official answer has yet been given, I wonder if Sclavere dominates and breaks down Reishi so much so that by the time it reached Kirige, it doesn't even resemble Hollow Reiatsu anymore, and therefore the negative
Okay.
effects are nullified.
Yep.
That's purely speculation on my part, but it's intriguing to think about all the same.
Glad to see
And
we're on
then,
the
of
same
course,
page.
double back to Asnot's holy form Tartar.
What are my thoughts on Tomo in general? I love Tomo.
To completely overwhelm him
I mean,
with
I love Tomo. I've been subscribed to his channel for years now, right? I tried to find his I'm pretty sure he's got a link somewhere. I tried to find his Thousand Year Blood War manga that he drew. So I'm definitely interested. By all means, if people have art, by all means send them to me. I actually like looking at art is something I genuinely do just to pass time. So if you like to draw, by all means send me stuff. Um but yeah, I love Tomo. I think his channel is a great encyclopedia for Bleach. I know certain other Bleach tubers don't like that. I don't care. When I think of Bleach, honestly, I just think of Tomo first. Um, eh, Let me not say that. Like, I think of Imran. It depends. Like, I think of Imran and Tomo at the same time. It kind of alternates depending on which person's video I've watched most recently. But yeah, I love Tomo. So yeah, we're kind of the same mind about these last few things. I actually really like that he's going very in depth with this explanation about Sclavere. Although I do want to see someone. I'm probably gonna go check it later. I want to check Club Outside and um see what he's talking about, because I don't remember being confirmed anywhere that like, I think we all agree that the Quincy can use Sclavere, like it's something they can do, but maybe it was confirmed in the Blu-ray. But the problem is that combatively can they use it? Like, we see Uryu use it in the Let Steel form, and then we see Quilge use it, but like, can all of them use it combatively? Because if that's true, the Quincy shouldn't have been losing people. Hell, Bambietta should have groffle stomped Sajin, because his Bankai is just a projection of Giant Reiatsu. Aizen, he said that it was confirmed that all of the Quincy can use Sclavere. Now, like, I think there's a difference between like can use and can use. I definitely agree. They're the premier Bleach tubers when it comes to giving analysis and story and characters. They generally don't do versus stuff. I know Tomo's been doing this more now. Like, he just did Ichibei versus Yamamoto, which I want to react to that too. He's doing this one. Um, per don't say Sajin solos. That'll get you banned. No, uh, no. So when I look at some of the other Bleach tubers though, I worry about like a lot of the headcanon getting into the series, especially on TikTok. TikTok is really bad when it comes to Bleach versus series. A lot of people will put their headcanons in things, or they'll scale things just off of pure speculation. And one thing I've always been upset about is just like the actual um people. I've talked about this in other live streams. If you watch like Madara versus Aizen or Naruto versus Ichigo death battles, the ones I reacted to, when you look at them, oftentimes people will always start slapping these numbers onto things and just start throwing multipliers on. And oftentimes they're just objectively wrong. Like, they started giving Ichigo 10 times boost between his forms, but what they didn't take into account is that Ichigo, without evolving in those forms, was getting stronger. So to say that Ichigo is only getting a 10 times boost from Dordoni to Ukiura is ridiculous. So I think oftentimes these I mean, yeah, TikTok. TikTok's great for cat videos and baby videos and things like that. Otherwise, um, hell, even the commentary is bad on TikTok. But like, there are some entertaining things about TikTok, Bleach TikTok. I think most of it is just toxic. I think a lot of the people that debate there use quite a bit of headcanon. There's one gentleman, is it Razor? I think it was Razor, was like he doesn't like when people use data books because to him that's just an excuse for them to say their character won. And I'm like, bro, it's follow-up information about the series. Some of it is information that comes from Kubo. Then you have things like interviews from Kubo, things like the some of the stuff that's coming out in the Blu-ray stuff, um, about Ichigo's Ryatsu actually being red when he's angry. These are things that are coming. Like this is extra information that doesn't come from the manga, but it is true, so it can be used. Just like with Tolkien in the Lord of the Rings series, not everything Tolkien um wrote is canon. There are quite a few things that he said that make things canon. There's quite a bit of things that we get a better understanding of from outside material. So the canonicity is always going to be an argument, but I just think Bleach TikTok is just really bad. But um yeah, I love Tomo. I love Imran. Let's get back to this.
through a barrage of unstoppable, unblockable terror designed to
We had
completely
9 people in
break
here
his
for a
engine.
second. Hey.
As soon as they lay eyes on this form, their feet are frozen to the ground, even if they themselves
Yeah,
haven't yet realized the fear is.
I love data books when they make sense. Sometimes data books um I think one of my biggest pet peeves is like sometimes using the wrong pictures. Like the one that bothers me is like Yami having the second strongest hero. Like Yami makes that statement when he's the Zero Espada, but the picture that's used in Unmasked, or is it Masked? I think it was Masked. He it's base Yami, and I'm like, if that's true, that's kind of weird because Bankai Ichigo was able to lop through that hero like it was nothing. So yeah, I don't know about that one. So I always attribute it to Zero Yami. But yes, data books are fantastic for information.
Taking effect. As not capable of encircling them in his terrible eyes, meaning his gaze can't be escaped, and the fear will permeate.
So one thing I've always been curious about is what exactly is going on here. These are like extra. So Quincy, so Kubo, so Quincy can make constructs. Quincy 1000% can make constructs. Armor, weapons. Base Yami is trash. Make armor, weapons. Asnot seems to be able to make actual organic, like extend his physical body. I don't know if that's just because of Yuha's blood, but if Quincy can actually create structures with like reishi structures, that's so cool. This is why I think Quincy's are probably like the most interesting group in the series. Their powers are defined, but still like there's so much room for expansion.
Deep within their soul. Even shutting one's eyes merely exacerbates the effect of the fear within the
Mm-hmm.
darkness, causing them to fall into a pit of despair. Like Ulquiorra, Asnot has access to a second form where he transforms into a gigantic, nightmarish monstrosity. However, while we can presume it would have given him some kind of advantage to do
Uh,
so,
I don't. Okay, I'm gonna let him see finish what he's saying first.
in action before Az is killed.
Okay, so I don't think this is a second form. This is probably like the first time I think Tomo said something incorrectly, and maybe I'm wrong. But um, when we see this last form, quote unquote, um, that Byakuya says that once you are no longer afraid, the only fear that's reflected in his ability is his own fear. And he tells Rukia to look upon this creature that is, his insecurity made manifest. I don't think this is a second powered up form that he has. Unless I miss something, I'm fairly confident this is just the fear, like this is what Asnot looks like under the fear ability. I don't think it's a stronger form. I may be wrong, but I think this may be the first time Tomo said something I completely disagree with. But if someone thinks I'm wrong, let me know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm happy to be corrected.
This is to say that Asnot has access to an incredible power, but in other areas it seems he's lacking. When Rukia shuts down the fear, we see an Asnot who is unable to comprehend what is going on and who struggles to then keep up with her as she begins to go on the offensive. It seems likely to me that Asnot isn't a physical fighter at all, instead relying on his shrift to defeat his opponents.
Yes.
Which makes sense, considering his sickly, near-death state when Yuhabak bestows him with this power. And so, with Asnot having these potential weaknesses to compensate...
He kind of looks like... I never noticed. He kind of actually looks like a...
weaknesses to compensate for, we have a really...
Oh, I'm drawing a blank.
...on our hands. Two characters that in many ways are actually total opposites. One who feels like a powerful all-rounder compared to one who has a broken ability that far outweighs basically everything else he can do. And of course, this fight still boils down to that one crucial question. So let's take a look at the actual battle itself and how it might play out.
Let's go.
Before we dive into the fight itself, however, first a quick word
Tommo.
today's sponsor.
No.
So,
No.
as you probably saw at the
Oh.
start of the video, I'm very happy to welcome back Tokyo Treat and Sakurako as today's sponsor. And the theme for Tokyo Treat this month is Sakura Starlight Snack Fest, while the theme for Sakurako this month is Moonlit Sakura.
Is it that season for Petals yet?
Sequel to last month's themes.
Interesting.
So what exactly is the deal with the monthly Tokyo Treat and Sakurako snack boxes?
Wait,
Well,
is that one of the Weasley siblings back there? That's crazy.
thanks to the assortment of treats found in
Of course,
the
the bread is
to experience Japan from the comfort of their own home. So, what are some of the crucial differences?
I appreciate you, brother, but
Only snack exclusive seasonal mini straw. As on the other hand, Sakurako is a monthly or
interesting.
and Ichigo roll. Both of these.
God, I love ads. I was interested because he looked like he was about to do some.
Japanese signs, the cherry blossoms.
Thought they were gonna do some like unboxing stuff. I mean, they did, but
Struggling.
So this is basically a cake filled with cherry cream. Smells absolutely delicious as well.
Smells so
Should I split it in half? The cream doesn't really split.
I'm ready.
Let's go. Very nice.
Very fluffy.
Fluffy, that's the word I was looking for. Wow, it really is. Yeah, that's very nice. Actually.
Really nice.
okay. I don't want to make a joke. I'm glad she has the words because I was afraid Tomo was gonna say that the cake had a more eldritch taste to it.
Very, it is very delicate.
It's going everywhere.
I swear to God, if I ever meet Tomo, gonna bring it up. I'm gonna bring it up without a doubt. I'm gonna bring it up.
Have to kill the fish.
Yep.
I'm not making fun of him. I love the word eldritch too. I just don't use it nearly as much as he does.
Strawberry. Because this one really intrigued me.
Oh, with the Ichigo reference.
From Ichigo, strawberry. Because this one really intrigued me. So this is the Sakura sweet potato and
Cool. Okay, let's get to the ads.
Treat and self. As Ulquiorra surveys the area, he suddenly feels a strange, eerie Reiatsu drape itself over the battlefield. As not appears behind.
Never mind. I was gonna say something, but oh, did I hit the mute button? I did. I'm an idiot.
Moved by Asnot's twisted entrance, which the Quincy sees as a challenge. Everything in this world succumbs to fear. No one is immune to the force of instinct. Ulquiorra is unimpressed by what he sees, deciphering Asnot's terrifying appearance for what it really is quite quickly, an attempt to project on others. Here, of course, we need to account for the individual character's state of mind. Ulquiorra would approach the battle in his usual manner, calm, quiet yet poised and ready for anything. Meanwhile, Asnot is definitely more skittish. As the battle begins, his belief in his shrift is enough to carry him some distance.
So I guess I'll get into it before he continues on. What I want to what's important I think here is essentially talking about scaling. The Byakuya that fights Asnot is far stronger than the Byakuya that participated in the battle against Zomori and Yami. Now, to be fair, the Byakuya that helps defeat or I guess Ira Rage Yami or monkey form, whatever you want to particularly call it. excuse me, I don't know why I've been burping all day, um, was Bankai. However, as we scale up his power, Shikai Byakuya should be more than capable of harming a base Ukiura. That would put this Asnot in his blute well above that. And if Tomo's analysis of Asnot allowed himself to be hit, Ukiura is not going to be able to get through that blute, honestly, probably in his first two forms. That is a very important possibility, especially because, like we said, we've gotten confirmation that the blute can be enhanced to a Bankai level. Does that mean it's for all Quincy? No. Um, but does Asnot have a very impressive blute? Yes.
But depending on what route the fight ends up taking, we've seen he's quick to descend into hysteria. Asnod's biting, twisted sense of humour is another weapon at his disposal, and he attempts to rattle Ulquiorra by mocking his hollow nature and even his physical appearance, saying he shouldn't look so sad just yet. But Ulquiorra's continuing ambivalence is already beginning to infuriate the Sternritter. Much like Byakuya in the second invasion, Ulquiorra's refusal to rise to any of Asnot's taunts is beginning to take its toll. Now, with Asnot's mental state already beginning to fracture and Ulquiorra's general slow-moving approach to engagement, it seems likely to me that Asnot would launch the first attack. If anything, it's a glimpse of his true fear. He doesn't want to give Ulquiorra even a split-second chance at getting close. And so again, much like the
I don't
last
think he
version,
has to worry about
two
that.
characters
Want a worry-free way to kill bugs? Ziva, people friendly, bug deadly.
Tomo has. Oh, that's for me. Dang. See, look, these ads are so targeted, bro.
want to
My
control
goodness.
the battle in different ways. Asnot, out of fear of Ulquiorra's hollow Reiatsu, would want to keep the Espada at bay as much as possible. Meanwhile, while Ulquiorra can fight well at range, particularly in his Resurrection, I think he'd want to get up close and personal to end this nuisance as fast as he could, most likely by ramming his hand into Asnot's chest, as is his trademark. Quickly summoning his Ring of Thorns, Asnot launches a bombardment of arrows towards Ulquiorra. Ulquiorra would be able to dodge them fairly effortlessly, fleeing from them in the same way Rukia did. Asnot mocks Ulquiorra for keeping his hands in his pockets, telling him he won't.
Okay, so this is another thing I disagree with. Asnot, although it was off screen, Asnot was capable of hitting Byakuya with a thorn. That Byakuya would definitely be at least the same speed as that base Ukiura. We're talking about. So, actually, to further my point, yes, that Byakuya that fought Zero Form Yami was Bankai. However, the person that started that fight with Yami was not Bankai Byakuya. That was base Byakuya. Sokatsui was capable of harming and knocking Yami off of his feet. That's a level 30 hollow. I mean, Hado. That's a level 30. It's in the 30s, it's not level 30. It's 33. You know what I'm saying? It's not a very impressive hollow coming from a base Byakuya. And a stronger Byakuya, the 1,000-Year Blood War version, one that would be arguably faster and stronger, was also hit by those thorns. I don't think you could make an argument that Ukiura could easily avoid them.
Be able to outrun the fear forever. Perhaps from afar, Ulquiorra launches a Cero or a Bala Blast, but realistically the fight isn't going to end if both combatants keep at it like this. So, pragmatic as ever, Ulquiorra turns to face Asnot directly and launches himself towards him, finally drawing his sword to cut through one of the thorns head on. Almost immediately, Ulquiorra is directly in front of the Sternritter, catching Asnot off guard, his eyes widening in horror. Now here's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
As Ulquiorra goes to stab Asnot in the chest with his hand, can it be blocked by Blute Vein? Personally, I think so. We've seen Blute Vein do some incredible things like protect Royd Lloyd from the effects of Yamamoto's Bankai, and in the Thousand Year Blood War arc anime, Blute Vein even allows Asnot to be struck in the face by Senbon Zakura and emerge unharmed. So Ulquiorra attempts to end the fight quickly, only to be shocked himself when his fingers connect with Asnot's chest and are stopped on the surface. Glittering blue veins gathering in the center of the Quincy's body. Grinning beneath his mask, Asnot's eyes narrow with glee, and he blasts Ulquiorra with a reishi thorn. And so, of course, this is where that central question finally comes into play. So let's take a look. Can Ulquiorra feel fear? It's an interesting question for sure. As an Espada, Ulquiorra's aspect of death is nihilism, emptiness, the belief that life is meaningless, that everything is without meaning, and all of that is embodied by his brilliant emerald eyes. As far as Ulquiorra is concerned, all that exists within his eyes. If he can't see it, it doesn't exist, which means he has a fundamental lack of understanding and comprehension of metaphysical concepts. All that Ulquiorra understands is the physical, what he can see right in front of him. This
let him finish.
seemingly put him at odds with Asnot, whose entire power
Agreed.
is about manifesting his enemy's innermost instinctual fears. But that's intriguing to me. Ulquiorra seemingly can't understand abstract concepts, but fear is very much a primal, animalistic instinct. It's not a concept per se, it's something all beings have to some degree. There's also the argument that, as a being who represents emptiness and the void, Ulquiorra doesn't feel fear or really any emotion too. And we see this too. When he's about to be killed by Ichigo, he shows no sign of any emotion, only a simple acceptance of the fact he's lost. It's from this angle that I call Ulquiorra the ultimate hollow, except even that's not entirely true. Ulquiorra has shown emotion from time to time.
Yes.
And a big aspect of his character was his grappling with his emerging humanity in the face of Ichigo's perseverance and emerging hollowdom. As Ichigo continues to defy him, Ulquiorra rages at him in a brief moment of lapse, showing a very human anger.
Yes, he said it. Okay. Thank you, Tomo. Ulquiorra has a multitude of moments where he expresses actual emotion. What are y'all barking at? He shows genuine emotion. And again, he is a living creature. All living creatures experience those emotions, period. So you would have to literally prove that Ulquiorra doesn't, but you can't when Kubo goes out of his way to show you that he does.
Insistence to keep fighting in the face of futility.
Also, even as someone who is, I guess, you call me, would I count as a soft nihilist? I don't know. Just because you think life in itself doesn't have any inherent value or meaning, doesn't mean that you can't experience those concepts. Because you don't agree with the concept doesn't mean you don't live the concept. It's a little difficult to explain, but I think hopefully I'm helping you understand what I mean by that. Why did that pop up? No, don't start doing this. Don't do this. The draft is over. All right.
Something Ulquiorra doesn't, nay, cannot comprehend. Not only that, but as he dies, it's clear that Ulquiorra has finally understood what this idea of the heart is, the metaphysical concept at the core of his struggle, meaning despite everything, despite who he is and what he represents, he does have the capacity to understand. Plus, even with all of that said and done, if this isn't fear on Ulquiorra's face on this panel, I don't know what it is. And so we return to our battle with one of two outcomes. The first outcome, Asnot's thorn strikes Ulquiorra and absolutely absolutely nothing happens, at which point Ulquiorra turns and slices upwards with his sword, dragging it across Asnot's chest and most likely wounding him. Shocked, Asnot darts backwards, horrified that Ulquiorra doesn't seem able to experience even a primal instinctual fear. And at this point, the battle is effectively over. If Ulquiorra is truly incapable of feeling that emotion, that instinct, then even Asnot's holy form won't be of any use, and Ulquiorra quickly defeats him. Maybe Ulquiorra needs to use his first release form just to have enough destructive power to kill Asnot's complete communion form, but again, we really don't know. And it's possible Asnot tries to use Sclaveray on Ulquiorra once in Volstendig out of desperation, but again, I think Ulquiorra would be too fast for him by this point, overwhelming an opponent he already knows is on the back foot. Also, the mechanics of Sclaveray are weird. Kiergay was able to strip Ion to the bone instantly, but even up close, he was only slightly wounding Orihime and the others, peeling away at their flesh relatively gradually. So presumably it has something to do with the victim's Reiatsu level, or even it's the fact that Ion is more a construct than a living being.
I'm glad he said that. For those who think Bambietta is gonna, oh, whatever. Let it go. Let it go.
So
Let
even
it go.
if Asnot tried to use Sclaveray to reduce Ulquiorra to nothing, it probably wouldn't work fast enough, and Ulquiorra would almost certainly shrug off the damage to get in close and finish the Quincy once and for all. That being said, imagine how cool Tartaforas would look with Ulquiorra's black wings. So yeah, if Ulquiorra is unaffected by Asnot's shrift, I think things would go predictably bad for the Sternritter. That's not to say he would be instantly defeated, as we've noted before. He has
Yeah, I think if the fear doesn't work, I still don't think Asnot has too much to worry about because he could still fight. Like he does need the fear to fight. Like that is his main tactic, but he's still a Quincy. He still has access to Reishi constructs. He has his Volständig that we talked about, but I think it truly becomes a problem in Res 2. I think Segunda Etapa, if the fear isn't working and Ukyo gets to Res 2, then we're talking about a massive problem. Um, Otherwise, I still not convinced that a base Ukiora could actually cut through that blue.
impressive resilience and a will to
Who just hopped in? Who hopped in the server? Who's that? I can't
Couldn't
see.
tell you, dog.
What's up, Stasis? How's Washington?
Hey. Well, where I'm at, it's hot as hell, so that's fun.
You been rooting for my Lakers?
I mean, it's a parade inside my city, yeah.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing alright. I'm doing alright. Oh, we watching Tomo?
Yeah, watching Tomo's Ukiora versus Asnot.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
I have not either. That's why I was looking at. So, thoughts. I guess the big question is, and what's the big question of this fight is, do you think the fear will affect Ukiora?
I'd say it's a different case than Byakuya, because Byakuya he acts like cold and shit. I'd say if it's like last Ukiora we see, that one that's starting to grasp emotions, say he fully regenerates, goes and fights, as not that one I say loses because he actually has emotions. Anyone before that though, I don't think the fear affects.
Interesting. Okay. So, the next question would be is, at this point, is Ukiora strong enough in his first two forms, not counting Segunda Etapa just yet? Is he capable of getting through Asnot's Blute?
That I guess it depends if you think is that Ukiora stronger than beginning of Thousand Year Blood War Byakuya, or as strong.
hmm And I was saying, I definitely don't think so because we see a base Byakuya show up and knock Zero Form Yami off of his feet with a Sokatsui.
Yeah.
So I think base Byakuya, even with just Shikai. He's definitely in that 4 range. And this is, this is post second form Yami. I mean, this is pre second form Yami fight. This is pre Tsukushima fight. So he's definitely weaker. That version that fights Yami is definitely weaker than the one that's in the Thousand Year Blood War.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Tomo is he seemingly made a decision that the fear would not work because he showed several examples of Ukiura expressing emotion prior to the final events in that with the fight with Vassal Lord Ichigo,
Yeah.
and then but then now he's giving a fight scenario of both where Ukiura is the fear doesn't work, which is what we're on now, and then I think he's gonna give one where how the fight would play out if the fear did work.
Mm. Oh, that's annoying. Sorry, off topic, but I just saw that the Kings are about to lose to the Warriors, so I'm sad.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, like 100 to 120.
Oh, they're getting shellacked.
Bro, I thought since it was in Sacramento, they might have a chance.
When it starts to snowball out of control, man, like it's hard to recover.
Yeah.
It's hard to recover.
When it starts to snowball and the other team has Steph Curry, then it's even harder.
Steph Curry's Steph Curry shrift, the avalanche.
Yeah, that's the snowball.
As the snowball. Don't let him hit you. Each consecutive hit just gets worse.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's been an
And
interesting video. Oh, sorry, go ahead,
I was gonna say he hits harder from range.
man. The further away the shot, the worse it is.
Yeah, like the harder it is to hit, but if it hits you, you're like taking more damage.
That's Pumpkin's ability from Akame ga Kill.
Ah,
I think if I remember correctly, the harder the shot is, or the least, it's the harder and like the least likely shot, it like the actual power of the shot becomes stronger.
mm.
So, yeah, it's a, but yeah, this has been definitely interesting. Hearing Tomo actually like, no, I don't know any other way to word this without it sounding bad, but like commit to an idea and saying it is actually really cool.
Yeah.
Um, I don't mean that in a bad way, but just like I said, we did the live stream for the last video. I'm sitting here thinking we're gonna get a scaling video of like how strong Aizen is, and it was just kind of like a general overview of all of his powers, which
Yeah.
is still cool.
He's still gonna manage to find a way to say that Squad 9 isn't, winning or like has something wrong.
I noticed that like none of the Bleach tubers, like from what I've seen, none of us actually genuinely agree on anything that has to do with like, so like you have like certain people like don't like Squad 9. Then you have like other Bleach tubers like myself who like adore everyone from Squad 9. But then you have like people like I think Tomo has like loves Byakuya and Squad 6 and Renji. I can't
Yeah, he loves
stand them.
like bro's favorite visor is Rose, so like
Uh, no, it's love and Lisa love. But yeah, like it just depends, and everyone has their own opinion. But it's just I find it funny that none of us actually genuinely agree about
yeah,
anything.
that's that's part of why I love this community because like there's so many different opinions.
Yeah, not to throw shade on the Naruto community, but like everyone's like in camps. Like if you're not in the Minato camp, you're in the Itachi camp. If you're not in the Itachi camp, you're in the Madara camp. Like when it comes to like when it comes to like the most prolific character, like if you're not like in one camp, you're just in another one.
Yeah, and
And
if you
Bleed,
aren't in Dragon Ball and thinking Goku solos, you're extra. You gotta leave the community.
yeah, you gotta get out of here. We don't play that. It's gonna be hard for them to admit that Goku loses this to Sailor Moon. I know it's
And he
hard, but
doesn't even
sometimes you just
follow
gotta
his own
accept it.
verse.
Doesn't even solo his own verse. Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. If your character genuinely doesn't solo their own verse, I don't want to hear you say they solo another verse. Like I don't care. I don't care how big the scale difference is between those series. Like it's just ridiculous. But yeah, let's finish this up.
Keep fighting
Yeah.
and keep living. the fear is his trump card, it's Asnot's greatest strategy, and without it, he's left floundering. However, I just don't think this outcome is likely for the reasons I've expressed. Fear isn't a metaphysical abstract concept that's hard to comprehend. It exists. It can be seen by Ulquiorra's
Dead
eyes
body
with
screaming
other
would
people, even
rattle
his
me as
own
well.
enemies. And
Yeah.
Ulquiorra is a hollow, a creature
The first
that
invasion is
no
so
matter
metal.
how well he hides it. So in the
Exactly.
second outcome, Asnot's thorn lands true, striking Ulquiorra and causing him to skid backwards.
I'm pretty sure
putting
my,
distance between him
Ukiyo
and
would
his
think it's
foe.
an average
Now,
Tuesday,
as we
though.
saw with Byakuya, fear wouldn't take hold immediately. Instead,
Yeah, I
Ulquiorra
was talking about it. And they were talking about nihilism, how like Ukiyor like represents the void, or just the idea of like not really accepting abstract concepts like intrinsic value. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I was just saying, like, even someone like me, like a soft nihilist, like, just because you don't believe in a concept, like, doesn't mean the concept itself doesn't exist. Like, your belief in what is real or not always go hand in hand. They're not the same thing. And
Yeah.
I will say though, I think everyone's asking the wrong question after Tomo said this. I don't think the question is so much that does the fear affect Ukiora, but I think the real question would be, can Ukiora overcome the fear mid fight? I think that's the real question, because like we can all agree that if you're a living being, like you're gonna experience fear on some level unless you genuinely have thrown your emotions away, like Father from like Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah.
But we see that you can actually overcome the fear itself as long as you can let go of your own insecurities. So I guess the real question would be is, could Ukiora get rid of his insecurities in the middle of a fight soon enough not to die?
I think he could, because I don't think he cares too much about anything, much less his insecurities, right?
I don't know. It's very interesting. He does become obsessed with the concept of a heart. Like that's what starts his outward pouring of emotions.
Yeah,
So
true.
he does have an insecurity about that. And then when you look into his the backstory manga that Kubo drew for him, he is by himself contemplating his past and contemplating the concept of a heart. So like
Mm.
when that manga starts, it's Ukiora literally sitting on top of the dome of Las Noches, and Orihime comes out to sit with him, and he's just going over his past in his mind. So clearly he's doing some level of introspection. Like there's a character underneath that like veneer of like ambivalence.
Mm.
So I think it's just really, I think this really does come down to how you interpret like Ukiora, like his expressions.
fires off another Sero,
Yeah.
causing Asnot to leap away.
I don't know, because this
But
was always a
slowly
really
and
weird
surely,
matchup, at least for me.
Yeah.
Because narratively, those two should be, Asnot should be, stronger, right? Because,
Yes.
I don't. Because, there's people saying that where Ukiora scales power wise and Thousand Year Blood War is, mid tier at best.
Are you talking about with or without Segunda?
If we're counter Segunda, that's what some people have been telling me. I don't personally buy into that too. Well, I mean, he's not going to be as high as the high tiers like Yuha, Aizen, Jugram. Like he's not there. But I could see him being high tier like Stern Ritter.
Did you hear Alex's? I think even with Alex, I think Alex said in the Discord when we were talking about reacting to this was, I think even with Alex's like Cien Grand's Ukiora Vastalorde Ichigo scale, I think he
Yeah.
even said that he still doesn't get to Asnot.
Oof.
So for Alex of all people to say that, that is it's
Yeah, right. Because I was never the biggest Ukiora fanboy.
hmm
I liked his character, but there are other Espada like Grimjow and Stark always stuck out to me more.
hmm
So if one of the biggest Ukiora fanboys I know is saying that, then I gotta shut up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I was actually surprised when he said it. I thought he was gonna make an argument for Segunde Atapa Ukiora, which I actually I it's funny because I'm the one making an argument for Segunde Atapa Ukiora. Um, I think that's mainly just because like even if Ukiura doesn't scale to like exactly the same power as Asnot, I don't think Segunde Tapa is so beneath the Sternritter that he can't harm them. And
Yeah,
in my opinion, anytime if you can harm somebody, you have a shot at beating them. Like that is just a factual thing. If you can hurt someone, you have a chance at beating them.
yeah.
It might be extremely slim, but it's a chance.
Like for example, you know, what's it? Base Chad could hypothetically beat Yuha if he hurt him emotionally.
Your mustache is unkempt.
Why is your mustache changing from panel to
I
panel?
know. And no, it doesn't. Yuha used the Almighty to look back at the other panels.
Bruh, I swear, the more of his power he regains, the more his mustache changes in the manga.
Uh, oh, did you hear what theory we were talking about with that? Were you there for that?
Nah, I don't think so.
We were saying that Yuha Bucks, that he goes from like a ragged vagabond looking person. He's all like scraggly, and then like he
Hmm.
goes to like it's like he's aging up. Like he goes to like this fully like mustached old man by the
Yeah.
time he's the Soul King, and it was hilarious. Um, we were like, Kubo clearly was doing that on purpose. This wasn't a mistake by him at all. No way.
Oof, I really gotta hop in the voice chat more often.
It was funny.
Interestingly, if Ulquiorra really has never experienced fear before, he might find himself incredibly confused by what's actually taking place. Byakuya, for example,
Hmm.
knows what fear is like and has suppressed it over his many years of battles. If this is brand
Oh, if I get one more ad, I swear to God.
Ah,
See, it's funny. I was at a point where my videos had ads, and then like I took the hiatus, and now I don't have ads anymore, and I forgot how easier it is to look back at stuff without ads.
yeah. Cause like I got a ad blocker on my fucking browser,
Hmm.
but like there's certain channels I just gotta turn it off for. You know.
Sometimes those ads are good, man. You never know.
Yeah, sometimes their ads are good, or those creators need the revenue.
Yeah, for sure. There are definitely people who need it more than some people. I I was uh I was looking back because I just finished the Masaki What If Part 2 script.
Let's
And
go.
yeah, I know. It's been almost a year, dude, since I started that script, the part 2, but I was I was like, "Oh, I need to," because I lost the original script, so I couldn't
Mm.
reference it back. So I had to keep watching the old video again to make sure I was keeping in line with what I was writing. So if I can only imagine how terrible it would have been if there were ads on that video. Like I would have had to sit there and just wait for 15 seconds, potentially 30. Sometimes I still get those like 30-second ads that you can't skip. And I
Those are the
was
worst.
like, dog, I was like, if I would have had to have sat through that, I don't think I would have been able to finish this script.
like
uh,
you with Byakuya,
I have, for the first time in a while, I have 3 full scripts
I've
done
seen
for
him even
videos.
willing to slam
Ooh.
thorns in the
Yeah.
face of
Meanwhile,
them from
I'm still
afar,
working on
taking
mine.
advantage of the fact that Ulquiorra has slowed down greatly.
Best ice feat in the series, better than anything Tosher ever did. So actually, funny enough, no, we'll talk about it after the stream.
Despite this, Ulquiorra is of course protected in a way a Shinigami isn't thanks to his innate Hiero, which is likely stopping him from taking too much physical damage, causing Az not to grow annoyed again. I wonder what Ulquiorra might see in his fear-induced visions. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
something relating to the black pit from which he first emerged? In his small flashback chapter, we see he found solace in that lonesome bush of white thorns in the desert of Waco Mundo. Maybe that same bush of thorns is now being burned to the ground, or in some way doesn't exist for him to find that solace in. That's why this fight, this matchup, is such a good one to me. Asnot's fear and Ulquiorra's nihilism seem diametrically opposed and make for a great discussion like this. We've seen Ulquiorra express
Mm-hmm.
both shock and anger before, so fear seems to make sense to me. And as Asnot himself says, his fear isn't a fear of something in particular, it's just the primal instinct taking charge. So Ulquiorra doesn't necessarily need to see anything at all, and I think Kubo mostly did that just because it's a great visual in a visual medium. Now, of course, in the source material, Byakuya eventually helps Rukia free herself from the grip
It
of
is
fear
born as the
by
slightest
helping her
insecurity
realize
in
that
your heart
fear
is eaten
doesn't
away.
come from nothing. It's always burgeoning from
Such a hard
something,
line.
and what they're
Mm-hmm.
seeing in this fight is Az's own fear.
Yeah, I was saying earlier he showed the panel of Rukia talking to Asnot, and she was like, "Is the ability of your opponent not to feel fear your biggest fear?" I was like, I can't wait for that line to be delivered because I want it to be literally, the coldest ice queen bitch line ever.
Bruh, for real.
I want it to be
And you
so
know
cold.
Rukia's voice actor is gonna be like perfect for that.
Oh, dude, I both of them, both the English and the Japanese, I think they're both
Yeah,
gonna nail that line, hopefully. I'm gonna say hopefully because sometimes lines aren't the actor, it's the director, but hopefully
yeah.
those lines come out sick.
Oh, they better.
Yeah, cuz like some of my I think I talked about this in one of our review episodes. One of my favorite lines from the manga was like change. Two of my favorite lines of the manga was change. The violate Soul Society line that Yuha says to the Stern Ritter after he just killed Yamamoto.
Hmm.
Like I think the word violate denotes something so much worse. So I was like, I really would have preferred they keep that line. And then the other line was um what was it? The Yamamoto line where he's like, "Go ahead, run. I'll catch up to you and slaughter you all the same." They changed it to like uh what was it like, if even if you run, I'll catch up to you and kill you. I was like,
Hmm.
like that's hard, but like I- I'll slaughter you just the same is so much scarier because it leaves this air of like imminence, like it's inevitable that I'm going to brutally kill you, not just kill you,
Yeah.
I'm going to brutally do it. So
Bruh, Yama would be a horror movie villain, for real,
he is.
against Yuha.
Think about it. Royd had someone else's memory was having PTSD flashbacks. That's how bad
Yeah.
Yamamoto is.
Hell, should have given Yama the F. Hold on.
uh, oh, if we do Zayad's award thing on the stream, we should have a greatest fear greatest fear award. It's gotta go to
Ah,
Yamamoto.
yeah.
Not as not. It's gonna go to Yamamoto.
Yeah, we should like hype it up like it's gonna go to Asnot. Then we just say Yamamoto.
Yamamoto. It's a fucking
Reflected
amazing
that,
line. I
and
love that line so
Ulquiorra
much.
has no one to
For
help him
real though.
come to that realization. To continue with this
I was saying
fight,
earlier, that's the
Ulquiorra
swollest
at one point
Ulquiorra's
has
ever
really
looked.
been
Like, look at
conceding.
those
When
traps.
an
Look at them
Arankai
triceps.
releases their
Oh my god.
Zanpakuto, their wounds are all completely healed. And
Bro
I
worked
wonder
out
if
off
that
panel and
includes
lost it all off
Zanpakuto
panel.
too. The wounds given to Ulquiorra from the thorns would all vanish, making me wonder if their effects would disappear in kind. In fact, Urahara himself mentions to Askin that when an Arankai uses Resurrection, their Reiatsu completely transforms from that of an Arankai to a
Ah, it's a
Titan.
good point that I don't
And I
think a lot of
think
people
that
thought
would
about.
absolutely
Oh
apply here and
yes.
would probably be a pretty cool application.
Now, does that mean it would stop a shrift? I don't I don't know. Cause like not a lot of people's shrifts are biological.
Yeah. It looked like, at least for a minute, that Grimjow while he was in his res, was handling the gift ball better than Urahara was. But the second it was amplified, it was the other way around entirely. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting thought concept because it's like, is a hollow being a hollow gonna stop them from catching a burner finger one to the chest? No.
I feel like it should or not nullify it, but like reduce it a little bit.
Maybe. I mean, so like we were also talking about he was talking about the Sclavere thing earlier, and it was like it seems like Quincy's are poisoned by Holores. Like that is a fact.
Hmm.
But we talked about the fact that with Sclavere, the power is broken down so finely that like the part that is hollow is kind of just lost and absorbed. But it's interesting that that's the case, or what we surmise is the case, yet Quilgay still took on Ion's visage. Like he had the eyes, the teeth, the muscles.
Yeah.
So clearly there was something still there.
It might be because actually I don't know if it has anything to do with his ability. Maybe that like gave him some like since I absorbed you, now your reishi is mixed with mine, so it's like canceled it out or something. I don't know.
Hmm. We'll see. I don't know. That's something Kubo definitely. Maybe it's in the Blu-ray DVD. Who knows? A
Yeah,
lot of stuff's
Blu-ray
been
or cut
coming out of there.
outside or something.
Of that theory, the transformation of Reiatsu roots out the fear and dispels it, especially if that
What a great
Reiatsu
use of a
is able
panel. That's
to
awesome.
follow. As not gloats
Yeah.
that Ulquiorra is
Because that was
destined to
Ulquiorra's
fall into
Reiatsu
the
pouring out
Aspada,
like rain.
unleashes his resurrection
Yeah.
Murcielago
It reminds me of
transforming
when,
a veil
Yuha
of
absorbs the
black
Soul King.
ichor like
Hmm.
rain. When Ulquiorra emerges from the shadows, brushing the veil aside with a huge wing, the entire battlefield has been blanketed by darkness, creating a very fitting arena for these two demonic, hellish fighters. Asnot is shocked to see that Ulquiorra has either managed to rid himself of the fear completely by transforming, or is at least continuing now to suppress it, his increased reaction.
Now, I will say there is one thing that Ulquiorra has a massive advantage over Asnod in, and that is battle intelligence.
Yeah.
There are there are few characters I will admit in this series that have better battle IQ than Ulquiorra. Um, very few characters. I think if anyone also would quickly figure out, like if Ichigo figured out that Quilge's Sclavere ability specifically comes from his Halo, yeah, Ulquiorra would figure out the same thing. So
Yeah.
no, it is a
But
matter
like
of
at the
getting
same
to it.
time, I feel like there's people in the Espada that have better, if not just as good, battle IQ than Ukiora. Like Grimjow, for example, he has one of the best battle IQs in the series, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Because like of how he's able to fend off multiple fighters, two of them that can holify, and still be able to like hold his own and make split second decisions to save his own life,
Hmm. He
like
is.
canceling out Acero.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Grimjow is there. I think I will always say I said it in my Ulquiorra versus Stark video. I think Stark has the best battle IQ of the Espada. He expressed like Kubo goes out of his way to express that to the audience,
Oh
like
yeah.
multiple times. So I think it's definitely him. But like when it comes to those, actually, you want to know? We talked about this before. Grimjow has a tactical feat over Ulquiorra. The Kaha Negacion drop was
Oh yeah,
ingenious. That was ingenious.
bro.
In this new
Bro,
form,
all the
allowing him to
Iran
push
need
it
more
back
screen
down
time in the anime.
further
Come on.
once more.
Hmm.
Asnot attempts to prepare himself, but
I can't wait to
Ulquiorra is
do. So
instantly
I started this new series, Faction Wars. Hopefully the first video will drop this Friday of it.
Ooh.
Um, so it's me looking at the four major organizations in the series, and then we'll pit them against each other in different ways. Like, the first one is going to be their leaders, like who is the best leader of the four
Okay.
factions. Um, hopefully I'll get around to like actual. I gotta find a way to. Probably military prowess will be one of the
Hmm.
things I'll do.
For their leaders, like, because there are some that have gone through multiple. Like Soul Society has Yama, Den Shunsui, and
Mhm.
Waco Mundo has Aizen, then Haribel, and then before that was Baragon. So, like, which one are you gonna be doing for those?
So I picked them at the heights of their power. So
Ah,
that
okay.
would be Yamamoto, Yuhaba. Because there was a time where the Vandenreich existed where it wasn't ruled by Yuha. You could argue it was ruled by Jugrim.
Yeah.
Um, so I had Yamamoto, Sosuke Aizen, Yuhaba, and Kugo. So I was very iffy about Kugo versus Aura because like technically execution was more prolific while Aura was in charge,
Yeah, more prolific, but that doesn't mean
but
it was stronger.
uh, mm, I
You could definitely argue, but like
yeah.
most of the people under her employ were just regular people.
Yeah, they were. There's the most of them were fodder. She channeled her power mostly through them, but
Yeah,
she also did technically have a stronger Yukio under her control
mhm.
than
That is
the
true. And
Yukio.
Yukio is nothing but untapped potential.
Yes, yeah. I think if there's a character in the series that like people sleep on a lot because the part of it is he's not a fighter. He's just a kid.
Yeah,
I think if Yukio committed himself to being like a true Fullbringer and wasn't so focused on running a business and being a kid, he'd be terrifying to fight. Um,
bro, he still is terrifying to fight. Like if he can figure out how to actually use his abilities and not just create monsters to fight for him,
yeah,
he is easily like top 10 in the verse because of that. He's like a mini Grammy.
yeah. The novels essentially just claim his ability, his Fullbringer abilities to control the electromagnetic spectrum. I don't know if people have a full understanding of how powerful that actually is. But it's genuinely terrifying. He countered Book of the End by creating a virus that applied to people's brains. He was able to communicate in binary, essentially telekinesis, but he did it with electromagnetic sound waves, communicating to people's brains in binary. That is horrifying to
Yeah,
think about.
I gotta reread Can't Fear Your Own World. I don't remember that.
Yeah, he did it. It's book 3. It's volume 3. He does it in volume 3 towards the start.
Alright, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to redo that.
Yeah, he's a problem. But like back to what we were saying, like so yeah, I had to pick between Aura and Ginjo, but I went with Ginjo. Just because like arguably, like you said, like that is its strongest version. You have Ginjo, you have Tsukishima, you still have
Yeah.
Yukio, and Jackie has her powers. Like Jackie is like like not really part of execution in the book, but because she works for Yukio, she kind of is by proxy still execution. So, but yeah, I chose Ginjo. Also partly because when Aura is the leader of execution, she's not really commanding it. She's kind of like the proxy for Tokinata.
Yeah.
So, but while Ginjo is the leader of execution, he's genuinely like barking orders at people. So that's why I chose him.
Mhm.
So, um, it was definitely difficult because like each of them has these massively impressive like feats of leadership, but they're so like three of them have very similar feats, and then you have someone like Ginjo whose feat is like completely different from the other three. So trying to scale that against each other was very interesting.
Mm.
I will say, one person definitely has the tenure for his spot. But yeah, let's get this finished.
Yeah, alright.
Actually, Zayad was supposed to join because we were supposed to react to someone did a video saying that Bleach's animation in Thousand Year Blood War was ass.
Bruh. Ha- mm?
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna call cap on that one, but
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see about that one. Like, I don't want to react to it just to give it clout, but like, I'm curious as to what they're gonna say.
yeah.
Now, if he's like talking, I'm curious if he's talking about the actual animation or the art, because I think the animation is fine. You could argue some of the art isn't very good, but like the
Mm.
Blu-ray is very much fixing that.
$10 says he has a Naruto profile picture.
Probably.
Except, of course, the fear has once again already taken hold. Ulquiorra attempts to swipe a lance at Asnot, quickly realizing his feet aren't moving at all. Asnot reveals his ultimate trump card. When his holy form is released, his enemy only needs to look upon him to succumb to the fear once again. As Ulquiorra begins to
That is another thing I think
fear's grip once
I wish
again,
more
encloses him within his
um
dome of eyes,
I guess more
seemingly
fans
entirely
in this like
unfazed by
genre
his
of
danger.
like shonen and comic books and stuff like that would familiarize themselves more with like um yeah, actual real world combat, um
Mm.
things like that, because I actually think that goes a long way in helping you understand um fights a lot. I was saying earlier that like Ukiura actually at several points in his fight with Ichigo actually uses his lance how you're supposed to use a lance in a fight.
Yeah.
Roaring, Ulquiorra unleashes a massive black
Like,
sorrow
actually
tearing
uses
through
a spear
Asnod's
like how he's
dome
supposed
like
to
a
use a spear, not
laser,
just chuck it.
shattering the eyes.
Mm-hmm. He's like,
With
oh,
his
I'm supposed to
fingers
thrust
weighted,
this into my
Ulquiorra
opponent.
clasps his face,
Yeah.
the Uranika struggling to come to
It's not a
terms.
sword that you just
And
start
I
swinging at
like to
people.
imagine that as he's feeling the fear, Ulquiorra would chastise himself for succumbing to such a trick that he can't believe it's working on him at all. Interestingly, we don't know if Asnot still has access to his thorns or not in Volstendig. Presumably not, since the fear is so potent now, he only needs to stand there.
I mean, his thorns are just a proxy for the fear ability, because we see that the fear is this black ink. He very much would
Yeah.
still have access to his thorns because they're Halic File.
Yeah.
You're just saying that he wouldn't have access to Halic File, which is this isn't true. He's a Quincy.
I don't think any other Quincy, while they're in Volstunding, doesn't use or can't use their arrows. So
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's weird. I guess. I mean, we see if anything, Quilgate is a perfect example of someone who uses Halic File while they're in their
yeah.
Volständig. Um,
Or what's his ass that fought Shinsui?
Robert.
Yeah.
Robert uses it. Oh, I'm sorry. Pepe. Pepe uses it as well.
Yeah. Bruh, how do I forget Robert, even though he has the easiest name out of the Stern Ritter to remember?
The fact that um they gave Robert Accutron like actual pistols in the anime was so sick. Not some like
Yeah.
abstract like Kubo drew his own version of a high tech looking pistol. This man actually gave Robert like 1911 like like M1911 pistols to shoot Shinsui with. I'm like, if I'm ever gonna get shot by a gun, let's go with that one.
Yeah.
There's some
You
history in
know,
that one.
like, back in the year, or back in the previous war, he was having, like, what's it, not a Luger, it was fucking,
A Walter.
yeah.
Got to take the Nazi thing to the extreme. No, so you got that like I imagine actually even further. No, it's 1,000 years ago, so it'd be well
Oof.
before the Luther. So we're talking probably.
Bro would have a bow and arrow and a cannon.
I'm thinking more of like a sling and a rock, you know.
Bro would be Usopp.
uh,
And let it do its work. And so Asnot declares
that's
that
hilarious.
Ulquiorra's heart is about to explode from the overwhelming terror, laughing maniacally as it seems on the surface. The Sternritter has won the fight. Of course, Ulquiorra has one last trick left up his sleeve. As the dome of eyes begins to reform around him from the damage of the Cerro, to Asnot's shock and horror, a great blackness suddenly befalls them, filling the entire dome and blotting out each of Asnot's many eyes. Ulquiorra's dark
Hmm.
Reiatsu leaks out of the dome itself, and Asnot begins to feel stifled by a power so great it feels like an ocean above him. When the darkness subsides, Ulquiorra stands tall in his segunda etapa, once again having removed the fear from his Reiatsu, instead showing Asnot true despair. Now, the intricacies of Tartar Foras are strange. Asnot claims that you only need to look at him to feel the fear, so presumably as
Yes.
soon as this newly released Ulquiorra sees Asnot, the fear will begin working its way into his system once more. Yet when Byakuya arrived on the battlefield, despite looking directly at Asnot, he wasn't affected at all, and Asnot himself seemed to imply with his too late comment that he was going to use the eyes he summoned instead to affect Byakuya. So I'm not really sure how it works, but crucially what's important is that Ulquiorra is now in a position
Wait,
to
so
overwhelm as not
you know what I just thought about? It's probably very similar to Mugen Train, the demon that's on the Mugen Train.
Mm.
It's not necessarily that you look at them, but when the eyes look at you is when you fall under its
Ah,
spell. So that could be it as well.
yeah, that could be. Yeah, that makes sense.
Although I definitely I know I think I know why exactly. We talked about this before. Why I think it doesn't affect Byakuya, and I think it's simply just that
Mm.
Byakuya has let go of his insecurities because he even says like right after this fight, I felt how strong you were when you came down from the palace. I think that renewed a confidence in him that he doesn't have to worry about Rukia, that she is strong enough to defeat anyone she fights. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why his insecurity, which is what he claims the fear stems from, I think that's why it doesn't affect him. Like he genuinely does not care at all about the fear acting, and then he kind of instructs Rukia on how to overcome the fear. So I don't think that was what it was at all. I think he was just done with Asnot.
At the end of the day, Tosin still beats Asnot.
Dog, it's
That's exactly
embarrassing.
right. Even if Ulquiorra was the
Hey, as
favourite,
long as he doesn't
Oh,
go red.
the fear at this point in the battle
oh my
now
God, it's
has the
embarrassing.
firepower to completely
I
decimate
still I
the
don't know if
surrounding area, no matter.
sorry, even if he goes res, I don't know if Asnot has anything for that Tosin. That's a scary. No, I guess it is because like Bambi had a no diff Sajin, and if you go off of anime scaling, that Sajin was capable of
Eesh.
swapping with. That's nonsense. I hate the anime for that so much. Did Tosin dirty.
Yeah, still one of the best fights in the anime, though.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Nullifying Asnot's own advantage and power. In a way, it would be similar to how Bambietta escaped Shinji Sakanade, but on a larger scale. If Ulquiorra
Yo,
had used
Bambi
his
reference. Let's go.
Let's go. Tomo watches your videos. That's crazy.
That's got to be what it is.
Yeah.
Bro, these ads. Where's Eisen claiming ads? Come on, come on.
Since when were you under the impression that you weren't seeing ads?
I used that joke on my students, and one student got it. I was so mad.
That is.
They
Well,
call
you gotta
themselves
pass that
anime
one
fans.
student immediately.
uh, they were like, I thought we were done with work. I was like, when were you under the impression we weren't going to work today?
And so, at the end of the fight, I think the fourth Espada, Ulquiorra, is likely to be the winner of both outcomes we looked at.
That's crazy.
Succumbs to the fear or not. Ulquiorra is just too well-rounded of a fighter, with not one, but two Resurrection transformations available to use, meaning if Asnot manages to trap him with the fear, Ulquiorra can simply cleanse himself of it, as long as it actually works that way. But considering Kisuke's comments, considering the way we know Resurrection works in terms of
Hold on,
healing...
hold on. I think he's going a bit too far with the whole like them being poisonous. Like to say it just like outright cleanses Ukiura because because he becomes a hollow again. Like I think like that like ignores the fact that Quincy's outright destroy hollow souls when they attack them. It's not like they outright destroy them. To sit here and just like, oh yeah, hollow powers just nullify Quincy powers. Like it's not completely factual.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, hollows are, the spirit race, obviously. It's got to be something. Like, you got to go rework this whole, like, if what he's saying is true, you got to go rework your whole, what's the best first in the, or race in Bleach. Come on.
It's Quincy's. Well, so
Ah,
so that's the thing, right? Like I think so like, if we apply this logic, just because Hollow Ryatsu is poisonous to Quincy's does not necessitate that Quincy Ryatsu does not affect hollows when we have like evidence that it does. Does it stop hollows from regenerating? No, but we know from what is explained to us that when a Quincy kills a hollow, it's just dead. There's no going back into the cycle of transmigration. if that
Yeah,
were
I'm
the
guessing the
case,
opposite too.
so actually, I have to look back. There is a comment from Rukia that souls eaten. So when souls are eaten by hollows, they go into the body of the hollow. When the hollow is
Hmm.
killed, the hollow and all of the souls in it are cleansed.
Yeah, but like, wouldn't that be why Ichigo doesn't go to the Soul Society every week to go visit Misaki?
I don't think they go to Soul Society. I think the hollow itself goes to Soul Society. I don't think the souls that were inside of it go to Soul Society. I think they go back into the cycle.
Damn.
Um
Ah, all right.
so that's confusing because that might not definitely be right because everyone's worried about killing these metal class hollows because all the souls transferring over at the same time would outbalance the world. The problem with Quincy's is that from what we understand about Yuha, like they may just when they die, they might just go back to Yuha. They might not go back into the cycle.
Shit, that's actually a good point.
So um that might just strictly be Stern Ritter. Or it could just be Quincy's in general. We don't know. So also the fact that we also have to look at the fact that like the reason I say that is because Yuha at the what was it that the 9 after 9 years he regains his consciousness whatever the that part of the when he gains his power when that is
Hmm.
fulfilled um he takes Masaki's power, which means there is a
Uh,
part, and we see that there is a part of Yuha in every Quincy, Masaki, and Ichigo. So I gotta wonder on some level if that's true.
yeah.
I have to say, Tomo, I absolutely disagree with your assumption of how the battle will go. I think his example of how the character of the characters as they're fighting is accurate. I think Asnot's very talkative. He would try to go Ukiora, and Ukiora really wouldn't rise to the occasion because it's not his character. I just don't agree with the completely cleansing his body of the fear. And again, even if he did, like, I don't think there's anything Ukiora has in his first two forms that can actually hurt Asnot because that Asnot scales to Bankai Byakuya. That Bankai
Mhm.
Byakuya is capable of fighting and harming a uh even if you don't have zero form Yami over Res 2 Ukiora, Yami still gets stronger after that form, and Byakuya, despite needing help, he still was able to harm that version of Yami. So,
Yeah.
like, and that's still weaker than the one that fights Tsukushima and the one that appears in the Thousand Year Blood War. I just don't see how Ukiora in those first two forms survives long enough to get to Res 2.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, Tsukishima solos the Espada.
Don't say that. No, 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 no. Don't give the full bringers over Dongai Mugetsu people any more power.
Let's go.
Oh wait, my bad. I'm supposed to be pretending like I've been converted. Dang.
Uh,
Alex is gonna beat me up for that one. Oh snap. So, I don't know. You heard his explanation. What do you think, Stasis?
uh, hold up. I gotta hear it one more time. Like what was he saying? I'm like multitasking between this and
Double to
Pokemon Sword.
use, meaning
You're
if
fine.
Asnot manages to trap him with the fear, Ulquiorra can simply cleanse himself of it, as long as it actually works that way. But considering Kisuke's comments, considering the way we know Resurrection works in terms of healing wounds, I really think it would. As I've mentioned before, we just don't know enough about Asnot's second form to really even include it. If anything, it makes him a bigger target for Ulquiorra's lance, which Ulquiorra does struggle to throw accurately. But if Asnot was to grow even more colossal, I think it would be much easier for Ulquiorra to land a hit. Plus, this form doesn't seem to enhance the fear any further than his Volstendig already did. As much as I really do like Asnot, I think if we look at the fight objectively, he loses in both scenarios. While I think people will come into this fight with a view to underrating the Sternritter, especially with how popular Ulquiorra is, if we take a step back, and look at the fight from afar, I think Asnot manages to put up a decent fight, pushing Ulquiorra further than probably expected. Once Ulquiorra reveals his ultimate power, however, I think this fight is pretty much over in a matter of minutes.
So that's another thing. So he says that like all his wounds would be healed. Um,
Hmm.
sure. Like let's even say that with the res it removes the fear. Let's even add that caveat. I think everyone forgets that like Ukiyora's regenerative abilities aren't as powerful as White's regenerative abilities. White was capable of restoring a vital organ for Ichigo, potentially two
Hmm.
vital organs. Ukiora
Yeah.
cannot repair those vital organs. The other thing I even talked about this with the fight with Stark is that it's not Ichigo. Ichigo isn't here cutting off people's limbs, which is something Ichigo loves doing. It, Asnot uses thorns. Thorns are not for cutting, they're meant for piercing. If those thorns pierce vital organs in Ukiora's main body, he's going to die. There's no healing from that. Like,
Yeah, I think like we definitely don't know enough about hell, even the Aronkar's resurrection, like how much that heals. We don't know enough to say that that does heal that much. At most, we've seen it heal a few cuts and like gashes. We haven't even seen because like if Grimjow went into his res against what Ichigo and Shinji, I don't. He's not getting that arm back, right?
no.
So there's no way that he, like organs that are gone or like injured that badly are gonna probably what's it get healed from just a res release, I guess.
Exactly. Because, like, if that was the case, he would have just went res to regen his arm, and
Yeah,
that would have
like
been
he
it.
would still be in the Espada
Hmm.
during that time.
And what's even more damning about that is Ukiora specifies that he's the only one with the capability of completely regenerating limbs of all the Espada. Now, that kind of gets, like, spat in the face by Noitera. However, I will say Noitera only performs that feat in res.
Yeah.
So I just think that that was a byproduct of him being more of a hollow again. Like he got
Mhm.
some of his regenerative capabilities, and he doesn't like. Yeah, I think he just got back some of his regenerative capabilities. I don't think it was anything crazier than that. So like if Ichigo might like disarming his opponents, yes. Um,
It's my headcanon that the res would have worked on Grimjow's arm, but Tosin just saw him do it and cut it off again.
he's following him around.
Yeah, you better not release that sword.
Oh my god. Commander Generals banned all releases of Zanpakuto inside the premises. That goes
Provided you're ranked 6.
only applies to Espada 6. Also Espada's 10 but also -4.
Yeah.
And
And
Espada's
if you
1
were
but plus
formerly
5.
6, don't even think about it.
Don't even think about it. Oh, good thing. I was about to say, wait, that doesn't apply to Gantenbein. Gantenbein was 107, so he's a
Yeah,
previous 7th
so
Espada.
Gantenbein's fine.
Gantenbein's fine. Whew, okay, that's all I care about. uh, mm. And Tosin, now that
One,
you've lopped off Grimjow's arm, where are you gonna go? I'm gonna go to Disneyland.
yeah. I'm gonna go with Gantenbein, and we're gonna, get him as a spot back.
I feel that. I'm there for that. So that's another thing, like, but just like, yeah, I definitely think I disagree with Tomo here on this. Like I said, I can see an argument for Res to Ukiora. Res to Ukiora is a monster,
Hmm.
but the fact that like Asnot is comparable to a Bankai Byakuya from 2 arcs later, I don't see how that I don't see how Ukiora stands a chance.
Oh, let me simplify that for you. He doesn't.
He doesn't. All right, Aizen, you think you're funny? Lonzo doesn't solo. Stark can even hit Stark. You know, you know what? You know what? Okay, you want what's funny? We talk about this all the time. What is the most significant thing Alonza has ever done? The most significant thing it's ever done is displace some sand.
And blow up a lot of Las Noches.
Shit, it barely did that. It like cracked the ceiling. Ooh. Sarah Skirta shaved it off like a.
Aizen gets back after winning with like everyone. He comes back, sees the sky is cracked. He's like, Ukiura, what the hell? Why'd you do that?
I said protect it, not.
Yeah. Now I gotta build another sky.
Oh well, he's God now, so I think that'd be pretty easy.
Yeah, well.
All right, appreciate you joining him on the stream. I'm gonna end the stream real quick.
Alright.
End the stream.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.
Anyone watching the VOD, join the Discord.